All right, we're back with the next set of 20 cards, second video in my top 100 series. But before we do go through these cards, I kind of want to just go over a small story about kind of like how I got into sports cards and non-sports cards in general. So kind of the first way I got into it is through my family, and that is being through like my dad and also my grandparents. So my dad owned a card shop in the Tampa Bay area in the 1990s, but he closed it down before I was born. But when I was born, it was kind of an excuse to get back into sports cards. But from like a very young age, he told me to always go through vintage, not modern, because manufacturers just continue to print cards, and vintage is a lot more stable and has a better collector base. And as a kid, I didn't care about that. I just wanted to go after numbered cards in like dime boxes and stuff like that. But that philosophy has stayed with me for a very long time, just to go towards the vintage route. And I find the vintage a lot of fun, although I branched out quite a bit from 1950 through 70s baseball, which I was preached to look at. Now, another thing too is my grandparents. So as a kid, my grandparents used to take me to different garage sales when I didn't have school on Fridays sometimes, or like during the weekend when they would have those, and would hunt for collectibles or sports cards. And every once in a while we'd have some success, but no home run finds. But it was a lot of fun trying to hunt those type of cards like that. And it just, as a kid, it was kind of like a version of going to card shows. So I wanted to share that story. You guys should put some stories down below in the comments. Like, how did you get into sports cards and, or sports or non-sports cards, and what made you stay? And next video, I'll talk about the beginning of Breakout. So let's get into these. I can't remember if I flipped these or not. Yeah, I think these are first. So let me actually flip these around. So first card up over here is Peter Jackson. This is an 1890 Mayo's Cup plug. I will still make the argument that these are 1894, but everyone labels it as 1890. And there's two different variants of where this Peter Jackson is printed. I have both of them, but my other one's a 3. So that's what the 4 looks like over here. Super sharp card. Up next, we have an 1887 Old Judge John Clarkson. So my only Old Judge baseball card, John Clarkson, Hall of Fame pitcher. And this is back in the days that they threw underhand. So there is that one. It's authentic. It's probably trimmed. It could be rebacked. It looks pretty thin stock, so good chance that is the case. I would consider this next card the grail of like metal cards within music, and this is the 1986 Metallica, and this is graded a 1. I disagree with that, because the thing with all these cards within this release, the 1986 Rock Stars, is they had small cards and they also had the large cards. And I call them cards, they're really stickers. Like that Bergman, right? The backs can come off. Well, I kind of showed you this already, but this has an original back, which is very tough to find. Now, finding this card itself without a back can be a bit of a challenge, but with the back is even tougher. In fact, I only know one other out there that has this back, but this is the grail of Metallica cards. Now, Metallica does have a sticker card from 1984, but is just of Ride the Lightning. This is the first imagery of the band, and this is the nicest known example. I paid up quite a bit for this card 2 or 3 years ago, and it is a card that will never leave my collection. And these will always, like I said, they'll always be ones in the terms of the modern grain scale, because these are all folded in half right over here. But I think this one looks really nice and presents well. Up next, we have a Sadara O. Now, this is a card I should probably get regraded. And the reason why is this got an A. But here's the problem. 2 things. Number 1, these were all hand cut. And also this, I should mention, this is his rookie year, by the way. This reminds me a lot of like a Red Cobb. And that's why I gravitated towards this card when I saw it at the Dallas Card Show. But these are all hand cut, right? So it's not really an A. You can see how it cuts in like that. But from what I've been told and from everything that I've been grading so far, is if it has all 4 borders, right? Border, 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 it should be able to get a numerical grade. So this is something that I probably should crack and retry again. The other thing about this card is you see on the back, it looks like there's some glue stains on here. Well, all the legitimate copies will have this. Now, there will be people that soak it and get this off of over here, but this is a way to determine that this card is real, and they'll have that. And that's what I learned from a Japanese card collector. So, Sudded RO has a ton of cards from 1959. This is probably like in the middle from scarcity standpoint, but I just love the imagery on it. All right, we have an N76 Thomas Edison. This is from the Great American set. I almost have all the Great Americans that I personally want, and then I'm going to be focusing on upgrades. Now, this is going to be one of those that I will be upgrading, but these just don't come up for sale very often. I actually picked this up from Michael Kula on the Facebook group for like vintage non-sports. He actually sold me his personal copy, which I really appreciate, because this is not only one of the last Great Americans that I needed, but also one of the last Edisons, because I think I have all his 1800s. There's like a cabinet card that I'm still missing. Not too interested in that one. I just don't collect a lot of oversized, but there is the Thomas Edison. Up next, we have the Alexander Graham Bell. This is my first in this Lone Jack cigarette series by the inventors and inventions. I'm actually building out the set. I have 6 more left. So if anyone has any leads on those 6, I would greatly appreciate it, because I really want to finish this set. And it's one of the toughest non-sports sets to complete, because all these are like pop 4 or pop 5. And there's 3 known already pretty much complete sets. So I'm just looking for the scraps to finish my set. I want to upgrade over time, but it's tough, right? And you guys can see what the back looks like. Pretty good looking 1.5. Obviously rounded some quarters, but I love the imagery on these. Another N76 over here, U.S. Grant. Super sharp looking card, but it has a little bit of paper loss, not a lot. I have quite a few Grant cards here too. Grant's interesting because he appeals to 2 different sides of collectors. You have presidential and you also have military. This is my Major Taylor. This one got a 5. This is the easier one to come across. There's 2 poses. You'll see the other variation pose a little bit later. Okay. One of the greatest Olympians of all time, 1968 Panini. This got an 8. There was a 9 that sold a few years ago. I regret not paying up for the 9, but I paid up for the 8 when I saw this available. And 100% had to grab it. There is, I call it, funny enough, PSA labeled 1 card of his is a 1963, but he'd be like 14 years old, and he had like a full-on mustache and everything like that. Basic research tells me that this is not a 1963 card. So just watch out, right? His first card, I believe, is from 68, or he may have a 67, but around that time period, not 1963 as a 14-year-old. Another Major Taylor over here. So this is a card. I believe this was issued within a magazine. We got a 4.5 on this one, and it is here a postcard. Pretty tough to find, although I think there's like 1 or 2 that are on eBay right now. Bobby Jones, Robert Jones over here, 1926 Lambert and Butler. Picked this up at the National a few years ago. I want to find a nicer copy in the future, but I'm content right now with a 4.5. Joe Louis, UTC Tobacco. I saw somewhere that this is actually a 1939 card. I haven't verified it yet, but just I do want to call that out. Or there's like 2 possible print runs on this. So that's, I think this is one of the greatest space cards. Glenn Kennedy. This is an 8. There's 2 different backs that you could find. It's one of the 2. Like I said, I think this will be, like, long-term, one of the most iconic non-sports cards. Crossover between presidential collectors and also space collectors. And pretty cool image. Have a John L. Sullivan, 1887 Kimball. It's got a 1, which I think is a little tough, but it does have that pretty large stain down over there. But good eye appeal. 1972 Sabbath. Now, they do have an earlier card. It has not been graded. It's the 1969-70 Hischler, which is a gum wrapper card. I actually do have that card, and I would value that more than this 8 specifically, but this 8 is tough. I think 8 is the highest graded for these 72 Sabbaths. I do also have one with the Bisvalita or Bisvaldi back, but that is not graded yet. So yeah, the 8 on the Sabbath. This is the 4-5 on this Edison. Like I said, I don't think this looks as nice as that 3 Benjamin Franklin, but it is still 4-5. One of his better cards. So this is a Bisvalita or Bisvaldi. I don't know how to pronounce it. If you do know, let me know in the comments section. But the doors, you have this one in A4. Pretty clean copy. That one. I do have a raw one, and I think the raw one looks as nice, but it does have, I could be wrong. I think it has the piece of tape here on the back, so I won't score too high. Although what I found from a collector, or what I've heard, is a lot of those came into packs originally with the tape here on the back. So the theory, I mean, I don't know. It's like, it's tough with grading. I don't run a grading company, but I think they should ignore the tape stains here on the back that a lot of these will have, because if they're pack issued like that, I think that's kind of unfair. But pretty nice copy of the doors. F&J Smith, Harry Varden. When I bought this, I knew about the color added. You can see it like right over there. It bleeds through. But very tough card to find. And this is a red back. There's like a red, there's a blue, and there's also a black back. So, and they have different advertisements down below over here. But I had to put Varden in here. It's tough to find a value on the authentic side of things, but it's a very tough card to find. And 2 oversized cards that I wanted to showcase as well. So up first is a 1969 Bergman Pink Floyd. This one got a 3. Finding these clean are very tough. And like a raw one recently with some paper loss in the back, I think sold for like $250 or something like that. So hard to see what a 3 would do. And oh, the other thing, a lot of these in the pop report are, it's way wrong. Some genius decided to mark like 1970 and 71 Pink Floyd's as 1969. So that pop is, it's all messed up. So just as a heads up on that side of things. And lastly, a very rare Australian issue of Nirvana over here. This issued in magazines. They're hand cut. Actually, sometimes he comments in these videos, but Paul has the nicest known copy I know. He actually found like an original sheet or something like that still attached. I paid up quite a bit for this one. It does have a crease through here, and yeah, you can see the back. I actually have the Keanu Reeves as well from the set, although the Reeves doesn't sell nearly as much as the Nirvana, but that Nirvana imagery has been used on other cards as well. But this is the first one with that image, I believe. And funny thing is, sometimes you'll see these graded as A's as altered, but these are all hand cut. So disagree with that. But either way, that is the Nirvana. And that is the end of video number 2, and we'll be on video number 3 shortly.